Ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So knowing you a long time, you've always said that Glocks are the best handgun ever. Why is that?
Reliability.
So it's just reliability?
You can't beat
Nothing else?
reliability.
How come it's
They
not
don't-
HK?
They don't, well, I mean, not hating on HK, but you can't beat the reliability. You can't tell me that if your life depended on it, you'd pick any other gun.
I might.
No, you're lying. You're lying.
No, I'd probably pick an HK, actually,
Nah, I don't believe it. Then why don't you carry an HK?
because it's too big.
There you go. You wouldn't pick it because it's too big.
So what is Berry compliance, and why is that relevant to the sewn goods bag manufacturing industry?
So Berry compliance, it's not relevant to the average consumer. It's really a DoD requirement, Department of Defense requirement, that basically states, in layman's terms, I'm not quoting it verbatim, but that all military and DoD sewn goods have to be sourced and made in the U.S. That's everything from the labor that puts it together to the materials that go in it. Everything has to be sourced from the U.S. And if it absolutely can't, I believe there is a way that you can get around that. But pretty much everything now, if it's supplies the military, it has to fall under Berry and has to be in compliance with Berry, which is why you still have, probably the only reason you still have sewn products left in the U.S. But for the average consumer, all it means is you're getting 100% made U.S. product. So,
And with Berry, it's not just, doesn't it go back like the cotton? If you're buying a cotton cloth, it's grown in the U.S., like everything.
yeah, I mean, everything, there's little nuances that you can get around that. And sometimes, fabrics might be woven out of country and dyed in the U.S., basically finished here, kind of get around that. But by and large, it has to be 100% made in the U.S.
Okay. So are all of Lynx Defense's products Berry compliant?
Not all of them. There's a few things, a few components, some foams, things like that that aren't made in the U.S. But everything is 100% sewn here, and everything we can get realistically, because again, DoD has a much larger budget than your average American, and the cost associated with sourcing some things would make these bags unaffordable, essentially. But I would say 9 times out of 10, 98% is U.S. made. All of our fabric is U.S. Our thread is. Most of our hardware is. Anything we can source in the U.S., we source it in the U.S. And honestly, anything we can source the closest to North Carolina we can get it, we try. Our zipper chain, our zippers are Ideal instead of YKK. Both of those have U.S. factories, but Ideal is based in North Carolina. And we've been using Ideal. There's a lot of other companies in our industry that use Ideal, like Coltac. They use Ideal zippers. And we both have never had really any zipper failures.
All right, so AK-47 versus AR-15, and why?
Whew. You get me in trouble with the AK boys. The AR-15 is just, it's a more modular platform. I know that's probably subject to some people, and not to offend the AK accessory manufacturers, but yeah, the AR is just the way to go. The parts are widely available. The barrels are widely available. Shoot out a bolt barrel, go knock on your neighbor's door like you ask for milk, and they probably have your parts for you. So the AR-15 is obviously just the way to go.
So what are the quality differences, and how can you tell the difference between an imported bag and a bag that's made in the U.S.? Are there any keys or like distinctions that you see between the two different products?
Yes, especially in the tactical world. Not necessarily if you go more just JanSport backpacks and, just the stuff you buy at Walmart. But in the tactical world, you're going to look for like weird MOLLE strips just all over the bag. I don't know what it is. Fascination with MOLLE strips just sewn on anything. Doesn't make any sense to me where they'll put it. Get a backpack, some MOLLE strips, just anywhere you can imagine they'll put it. Another thing that's wildly common, I don't know why, they must use some kind of like pot metal, but zippers will break. I mean, with just take them suckers and twist it. If that sucker pops right off, I guarantee you've got an imported bag. And some of them do okay. There's some good manufacturers out there that do import, but they have tighter quality controls. And anybody who QCs their stuff stateside is going to have better. Now, if they don't QC it stateside, I don't know if I'd trust that bag. Just because zippers are going to fail. Look for stuff like that that's going to fail. If you have D-rings, snaps, anything like that, they tend to be cheaper, not as well done. And again, like I said, you get your QC done here, it's going to be a better bag.
Can you tell a difference in the fabrics?
You can. So what you'll see a lot of is, like we use 500 and 1000D. We pretty much exclusively use 1000D fabric now, and that's denier. The D stands for denier, and we use Cordura as our shell fabric on most of our products. The thing about overseas, and I don't know if it's a calculation issue, I don't know if it's like metric to imperial or whatever, but they'll have like 1050. Now there is like a 1050D ballistic nylon, but they're just talking like they'll have a 750D. I don't know if they're just making this stuff up. Like, I don't know. I'm not sitting in their R&D meetings, but you're only going to see domestic Cordura, 500D and 1000D, and of course that 1050 ballistic. They'll have like 1200, 1250, and I'm like, I don't even know. You're just making numbers up at this point. Just because, naturally we think higher numbers better, and not always the case. So we stick to that 1000D US, and you can actually feel the difference in the two. The 750 import, it's not nearly as strong as the 500D domestic.
So why do you use 1000D Cordura? Like, is there multiple reasons for it? One reason?
No, I mean, so of course there's a price difference between 500D and 1000D, and the biggest difference between those two fabrics is how tightly they're woven. And we've talked about this before, where 1000D doesn't necessarily mean it's twice as good as 500D. It's heavier, it's more tightly woven, and so when you have those elements, it's more puncture resistant, it's more tear resistant, and it overall it feels sturdier. So you get a bag in 1000, it's going to feel sturdier than a bag in 500. Will you ever wear out a 500D bag? Most likely not. There's nothing wrong with 500D. We use it for years and hardly had any problems with it. The only problems we've ever had with people ripping Cordura is accidentally shooting it. And yes, it does happen. But yeah, I mean, 1000D is just, we decided to go that route because the pricing was getting so close between the two that we'd rather just give the customer the better end of the fabric spectrum. And we'd always get people asking for 1000D custom bags, and you never get anybody asking. If there's a 1000D option, you never get them asking for the 500D. So take that off the table, just give everybody the 1000, and the pricing wasn't that much different, so we just went that route. And it was easier inventory-wise. We're a cut-and-sew manufacturer, so we make everything in-house. So we have all these rolls, and we have to mark them, label them, keep track of them, and order 2 different rolls to get 2 different deniers of Cordura. It wasn't worth it.
So I know this is a hard comparison, but if you're looking at imported bag versus a domestic bag, which is the better value for the consumer?
I mean, naturally, of course, I want to say the domestic bag. You're going to pay, you were going to pay double with tariffs and other things that have come into play in the last couple of years, COVID, things like that. Their prices have risen, and so have ours. But their pricing is now seemingly closer to our pricing. And I also think there's probably some labor stuff going on in Asia to where their labor prices are going up, and thus their pricing has to go up. So it's still not anywhere close to ours as far as, hourly wages, and, we want to live like Americans naturally. So you want to earn a fair wage for a fair day's work. So, I would say long term, the better value is an American product, especially if they're using, obviously, you're not going to get American raw materials in a Chinese made product. It's just that's not going to happen. They're not going to send Arcador over there and our raw materials over there. And like I said, some of the companies that are import do make some solid raw materials that are made in Asia. Again, they have tighter controls. Their pricing is going to be higher because they have those controls over their manufacturing process.
So if somebody's going to lightly use a product, not use it for serious heavy use, so they're probably better off just buying the imported most times. But if they're going to seriously use it a lot, they're going to get more bang for their buck and more use out of the American-made product.
We see both. We see people that go into the range 2-3 times a year still want the American product because they know they're never going to have to buy it again. Then, if you're a budget shopper, absolutely buy whatever you can afford. Buy what suits you best. If we don't have the features that you require, go to them. I think it more or less breaks down to, does our product provide the features that you need? And if it does, great. Buy ours. Support U.S. manufacturers. If it doesn't, by all means, please buy the one that has the features that meet your needs. Because at the end of the day, we want the consumer to be happy with the product that they're purchasing. So whether it's ours or theirs, just, make sure you're happy with it.
So if I'm not mistaken, your best-selling product is your pistol range bag.
Yep.
What do you think the average consumer should keep in that? If somebody's just getting into guns, they're buying one of those range bags, what should they fill it with?
And that's the perfect catch-all bag, especially if you and I are kind of unique. We have quite a few handguns, so we would need much more space. 1 or 2 guns, handguns that you're going to take to the range, maybe even 3. You need your ear pro, you need your ammo, you need, maybe some paper targets, a few tools, Allen wrenches, some fix-it sticks or something. That bag is going to be your catch-all. It is going to be, you could keep all of your range stuff in that bag, lock it in your safe, put it in your closet up top, whatever, let it sit, and keep all your stuff ready to rock and roll all year round. Even if you're a 2 to 3 year, range goer. It really is the perfect. It's not too big. I wouldn't try to fit more than about 3 guns in it, including all your range gear. But it's really a solid product, and we offer it in probably the most color SKUs that we've got, including all of our camos, our desert, splatter, all that crazy stuff. So you can kind of get it to your liking. And then the built-in range mat too. When you're out there, you can keep all your stuff from rolling away. If you're breaking down guns, your springs, that mat it's kind of pitched as a cleaning mat, but it's kind of nice to know that if you take all your stuff apart, you lay it down, it's not going to roll onto the ground, and you're going to have to search for it forever.
So what should every rifle owner keep in their bag?
It's funny because I'm pretty terrible at keeping my bags kitted and ready to go. I'm trying to make a conscious effort to be better about it, considering we manufacture the bags, and I pretty much have an endless supply of bags. So, of course, ear pro. I would keep as many extra magazines. I would almost keep range magazines, and then the magazines you just keep at your house. Because I try to keep all mine loaded. You definitely keep all your mags for whatever gun. And we have a 2-gun case, but obviously most of our most popular cases are our single gun cases. I know quite a few people have 1 gun for each case, and so you might get 1 case different for each gun. So if you have an AK or something, you're going to obviously want AK mags in that bag versus
AR mags.
So of course your hearing pro.
What do you think about foamies? Is that a good thing to keep in there?
I would, just in case you forget your hearing protection. Most people don't have a range in their backyard. Some people do. But if you're actually traveling, keeping those in there, forgetting your hearing protection, it's not a waste, or you don't have to go try to locate some or buy some, because I'm not shooting at a range without hearing protection. I'm not shooting at all without hearing protection, but those are a good last-ditch effort. I know you're kind of a go-to on the foamies, but yeah, I think just having those in there, some oil cleaning kit, because that thing starts to run dry, throw some oil on it, and you can keep going until you can clean it when you get home.
Yeah, I found having a bag full of foamies and normally an extra pair or 2 of just cheap iPro you buy at Lowe's or Home Depot is, for me, I've usually got good iPro for myself, but if I have somebody else at the range with me, I want to make sure they have everything they need to be safe.
Yeah, and I like to keep gloves. I got a couple pair of gloves that kind of rotate between all the bags. Because if you have to grab something hot, shoot a lot of suppressed guns. So, if it's not totally cool, you're not killing your hand. I made that mistake one time, and I'll do it again. And also, moving the steel targets around, I like to wear the gloves because, tetanus shots aren't fun.
So what do you make? So you make a variety of different products for gun storage and gun movement. So some of them look fairly tactical, some are kind of in between, and some are very discreet. So what are the different levels that somebody might practice with their gun? Like, also, I guess depends on where they live, what they're dealing with as far as their neighbors, how much they trust them, etc.
So what we see a lot of is we had our most tactical bag. I almost said tactilus. I just made that word up. Our most tactical bag would have been our rifle case. It had the molly, everything else. We're kind of redesigning it now, but we're probably also going to re-release it as the classic for the people that like the classic molly look. But what we've noticed, and not to give out customers' information because we wouldn't do that, but the discrete bags ship to a lot of apartments, a lot of suites and things like that. So those people are clearly coming in and out of more populated areas and just don't want to broadcast what they have.
And if you're in the know, you're going to obviously recognize those bags, but
Right.
how many people are really in the know?
And we've had a lot of people when we first released it because it's a black and gray color scheme. They're like, oh, it looks like a gun bag. I'm like, to you, because you know guns. But we've also kind of taken that consideration and said, okay, well, we're going to get some Kadora and we're going to make these bags totally unrecognizable. We've made light blue, we've made red, teal, lime green. Probably wouldn't go the lime green route just because it's really bright, but, hey, if you like it, you like it. But so we've kind of taken that into consideration. And, we made one in multicam black, and I saw a comment the other day. He was like, this is totally not the way to go if you want discreet. Like, I appreciate the idea, but no. I'm like, yeah, I get it, but we don't, like, that's not our standard colorway for that bag. But we try to take that into consideration because we know where these are going. And not that people are ashamed that they have guns, but they don't want people to just blatantly feel uncomfortable
or they could be a target for robbery.
Exactly, or draw unwanted attention. I mean, nobody just wants to have attention like, oh, he's got a gun. That statement is never positive, by the way.
And if people do want attention, you also make some killer custom bags, correct?
Yeah, if they want the multicam black, the regular multicam ARAD. I think we ran some the other day in multicam Alpine, which is white.
But they could choose, you offer the ability for them to pick and choose their thread color, correct? Mm-hmm. And they can really design something wild. So what's the process for that? And can they make any other custom modifications, or is it just what you have offered on the site?
So right now we get a lot of people asking for custom bags, and we do what I'd probably call semi-custom. You can take our pattern and you can tweak it. You can change the interior, like the exterior color of the bag, the interior color of the bag, and your thread. That also includes...
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you please say that?
Here, I'll start that question over.
What?
Somebody must have said something that sounded like Surrey, huh?
Yeah, I guess. All right, ask it again.
So do you guys, so I was checking on your website, and you guys offer custom bags. So what are those? Can the customer come to you and say, hey, I want to create this, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's like I would call it semi-custom because you can take our existing patterns, our existing bags, and you can pick your outside color, you can pick your interior color, you can pick your thread color. That includes our logo. We'll match the logo to the thread color. You can do some really cool things, and I've seen some very interesting combinations that me personally would not have put together, but in the end, they end up looking really good. And it's like, well, this looks good. Even if it's not my cup of tea, it looks good, and they're happy with the end result because they get something that they custom built.
So those are really like eye-catching bags, a lot of them that I've seen.
Yep.
And you can really design something that nobody else will have. So
unless they get it all. But we've had a couple customers that have reached out after the fact and explained why they went with that color, and it was very personal to them, which was cool to see. I mean, it's nice when people take your products and your ideas and apply, what they really want to it. But going back to, just do we offer custom? kind of the same situation you're in with holsters. It's not as simple as just changing this or changing that or having an idea. There's hours upon hours upon hours that go into not only the development of a pattern, but then testing that bag to make sure it will hold up in that configuration. And you know,
And then when you're doing custom colors, again, there's a pretty large price premium for that. And, you know, doing manufacturing myself, kind of have an idea, but could you explain?
yeah,
to
a
the
lot of
viewers?
people, they don't understand why there's such a higher expense. And really what you're paying for is to break into the production line. That's the kind of part that a lot of people don't factor in is we literally have to take what you've ordered and put all of our attention and devote it. And a lot of times we cut those by themselves. So we're cutting a single pattern, whereas typically when we pattern out, we'll cut a stack. And that stack could be 50 bags. It could be 100 bags. And when they're running that operation over and over again, you know, using the same thread, it's a whole different ballgame. You know, you're running individual components over and over again and then assembling them all in the end. Whereas this is built typically by one person. We have one lady that basically assembles all custom bags.
She's the
cut 'em.
OG, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. She's the top dog. She's the one she pretty much handles it. She runs the show, but she also wants to handle the customs because she knows those are special customers for us. So, but yeah, what you're really honestly paying for is that break in the production line and then that time that it takes to solely focus on your bag.
And it's also probably a pain just dealing with the multiple different color combinations, stocking the odd thread, making sure you do have the materials in stock.
And sometimes what we've noticed or what we've had to do is, you know, we offer weird colors on the interior. Some stuff is not standard for us at all, only used on custom. And we have to order that stuff by the yard. When we order it by the yard instead of by the roll, it can be 2 or 3 times the price of what we would pay for it per yard if we order it in bulk. And that's kind of the going rate for anything, raw materials, whatever. The more you order, the cheaper it can be. But we can't stock full rolls of orange, for instance.
Yeah.
And, you know, it just, we have to account for those costings too when we do the customs.
So what's the best way for somebody to really keep a gun concealed when they're transporting it? Perhaps, you know, if they don't have an in-vehicle safe or something, they can really hide it. It's got to be semi in the open. The reason I asked this is I had a friend of mine who thought he was being smart concealing his gun, his handgun, in a DeWalt drill bag. And what I explained to him is somebody's going to bust your window and take that DeWalt bag before they take a gun bag because that's easy to bring to a pawn shop. And
yeah, and there's several manufacturers out there. There's some that make like guitar cases. And my argument always is I'm not going to carry a guitar case. Not that it's a bad idea. I don't know anything about guitars. So if you do know something about guitars and you walk up to me and you start talking about guitars, I'm going to look like an idiot because I don't know anything about guitars. If it's just nice part, you know, ask what kind of guitar you have. Daniel Defense? You know, like that's not going to be a good answer. Not to say that's a bad idea. The tennis racket, I could probably talk more tennis than I could guitar. So I've seen the tennis racket bag. That's not a bad option. And the guitar is not a bad option. The one thing I like about the guitar cases, I think they're usually hard cases. So those are a little better to secure. But if you're putting a lock on something like that, it's pretty.
But even a guitar case, my big concern is a lot of guitars are worth a lot of money.
They can be.
So
Yeah.
it's
And if you're putting a lock on it, it's probably an expensive guitar.
like somebody that's more likely going to steal something probably doesn't care whether it's a gun, a guitar, whatever. They just want what's ever easy to
Yeah.
sell and flip.
The more discreet you can get, the better off. Mentioned backpacks earlier. Just if you can get your gun in a regular backpack, that's great. I mean, we offer options. You know, our backpack isn't necessarily discreet, but we do offer the policy. But again, you have to have a specific gun for the policy, which would be a folder, subgun of some kind, MPX.
So what is the policy and what does it do?
The policy is basically a backpack insert, if you will. That's the simplest, you know, layman's terms way to explain it. But it allows you to stick your gun in upright into a backpack. It basically replicates some of the more like Vertex, for example. They make a bag that holds your gun upright, holds it in there. This does that, but allows you to, I call it BYOB, bring your own backpack. It's built around the standard size of a regular book bag.
So for somebody that's trying to stay concealed with whatever they're transporting, what's the advantage of the policy over the Vertex bag?
Two things. It's true. I don't really like the word gray man, but it's true gray man. I just feel like it's overused in the tactical space. But it's true gray man because you can bring your JanSport, you can bring your Under Armour. Don't bring your Nike. They're for China by China. But anyway, you can bring your backpack. Whatever you have already, you can throw it in there. It separates the gun from the rest of the contents in the bag. It's kind of a safety thing. Of course, the gun has a safety, but it keeps your trigger well. It's not exposed. And if you ever had to grab it quickly, obviously you're carrying this worst case scenario, last ditch effort. If you had to grab it quickly, it's separated from everything. You reach in, you grab it out, it's ready to go. Like I said, we've sold quite a few of those. We've had feedback from law enforcement agencies, anywhere down. It's nice because you can keep it in a backpack that's nondescript, and there's really no brand recognition on that. So Vertex, you could possibly look at that bag and say, well, that's a gun guy, because most gun guys like Vertex, carry Vertex. So that was kind of the whole point of it, was to be able to truly conceal carry a larger PDW style weapon.
So when you come up with the bag design, how do you go about that process?
Usually it starts by really just sketching it out. Typically you want to start with obviously the overall idea and what the purpose of the bag is. You don't just kind of want to, here's a bag, and then find the purpose later. So if you have a specific number of guns you want to carry, a specific gun you want to build one for, you start from there, kind of work the ground up. You start with basic sketches, and then you kind of hit the table and start working on patterning, because you're always going to start pretty much with a pattern, because if you build the perfect bag and you didn't build the pattern first, well, how are you going to duplicate it? So you always start, and right now we're still using a very old school way of patterning. We use basically manila paper on a roll it off, cut it down, make your notches, your marks, and things like that. It's just the way we do it right now, and then we can digitize it later and put it on a cut table. But it's depending on the bag, it can be a long process, but typically getting it to sewn finished good doesn't take long. What really takes long is testing it, doing the R&D, making the adjustments, and really perfecting that pattern before it can go into production.
Okay. So why are Lynx defense bags so expensive?
Well, we make everything here in the U.S. Like I said, we source everything possible. Every material we possibly can get sourced in the U.S., that's what we do. With that comes the cost. We try to offer our employees fair wages. We're not trying to, pay the very bare minimum. We want our employees to survive and have a good life just as much as, everybody else. So with that comes the cost of what it costs to make them. And that's what it really boils down to. They're expensive to make, so they're going to be expensive to buy.
So why do you like duck hunting so much? That's probably something a lot of people don't know about you, is that you're a pretty big duck hunter.
I like duck hunting probably because it's more action packed. I'm not, might have the touch of the ADD. So sitting in a deer stand just doesn't really appeal to me. Although the hog hunting in Texas does have a nice ring to it. But duck hunting is just, even if they're not flying, you're not just sitting there. You're constantly looking around. It's cold. Most of the time you're standing in a swamp, cold water. Plus, you can wait all that time hunting deer. You get like maybe 2 shots. Man, I'm shooting. I'm missing a lot, but I'm shooting when we're going duck hunting. It might be the Tweety Bird. I'm just kidding. Don't tell them that. But yeah, I mean, you get to shoot a lot, and you know, I enjoy shooting, I enjoy hunting, and just duck hunting is just the action and the amount you get to shoot is probably the biggest draw.
Is there any specific duck or any specific place that's on your list right now?
Yeah, I'm ready to go to Arkansas. Yeah,
So what's in Arkansas?
lots of ducks. Lots of ducks.
So what are the most fun guns to shoot in your opinion?
Ooh, bullpups have kind of struck me lately, and anything in 5.7. Big fan of 5.7. Don't know why, but just kind of hit me. I think I have every 5.7 handgun made currently in production. Yeah, the P90, sucker for that. You know, child of the 90s. Really like to get a 5.7, the CMMG one. That'd be nice. But yeah, plus 5.7 suppress is awesome.
So what about 5.7 specifically makes it so much fun to shoot?
Man, it's 22 has always been my favorite. Just low recoil, fun, zoom through it. But man, it's like having a centerfire 22 on crack.
Well, you got to clean 22s a lot.
Yeah. But like, you know, the 5.7, now rounds are a little expensive, but it's just there's no recoil and they pack a punch. I mean, you're actually shooting a decently powerful round. And a lot of the guns that shoot the 5.7 are pretty cool. I mean, look at the P90. So, and the handguns are just, when you shoot those things, they're so flat. Doesn't matter if you're shooting the Palmetto State Armory Rock, the new Smith & Wesson 5.7, they're just flat. And when you suppress them, it doesn't get any better than that other than 22.
So what's your personal favorite Lynx Defense product?
Personal favorite.
Does this change up periodically, or is it
Every once in a while? But I'm pretty partial to the bite. When we first ran that first bite, it just kind of hit me. I was like, "This is the bag." And you know, I like folders. I like the PDW style guns, the P90s of the world, and you know the MPXs, the little copperheads. Yeah, the bite struck me. When the first time I saw one run off the line, I was like, "This is the bag." And this is one of our top sellers in that line in the Urban Legend series. So it's I wasn't wrong.
So what are your most popular colors, and what do you attribute that to?
Well, black and gray is our number one seller. We just recently started dipping into colors and allowing, you know, doing some multicams and stuff like that. But yeah, the new colors are taking off, and I think rightfully so, because they are truly discreet. I mean, a navy blue doesn't say tactical in any sense of the word. Teal, nothing about that says tactical. So I think those colors will continue to gain momentum, and we get a lot of people asking about them when they're out of stock. So I'm interested to see as we approach Christmas. We'll probably do some bigger runs of some different colors.
So will we see more lever action products from Lynx Defense?
Yes, they are in the works. We have one right now. It's small and seemingly insignificant, but the people that have bought it love it. Excuse me. It's just a quick and simple bullet holder, and it's elastic based, and it just wraps around the barrel of the gun. Now, if you're doing like stress testing on a lever action, it might not be for you because, you know, if the barrel heats up too much, you know, it could degrade that. But if you're out hunting with it, you know, it's called the Redemption, and for all the right reasons. You miss, here's your second chance. Or you know, you miss a lot, here's your second chance. But yeah, so we'll have some more. A lot of them will probably kind of center around, they'll work for a lot of lever guns, but a lot of them are going to center around that Model X series of the Henrys.
So what about the Marlin guns?
We will do the Marlin guns. Our issue's kind of the same with you. When you make a product, you want to actually test it with the real thing. You don't use blue guns. So we don't have a Marlin right now. So if Marlin hears this, hey, we need a Marlin. No, but we'll buy a Marlin as soon as we can get our hands on it to R&D it with alongside those. So we might have to have 2 different models because obviously the stocks are 2 different. Oh, giving away the product, but it's coming.
So any thoughts on you guys coming out with a precision rifle case?
So our only issue with precision rifles is their length. We have a 42-inch bag right now. Our tactical rifle case was 42 inches. Anything longer than that in the foam that we use currently just doesn't kind of meet our standards. We like a good rigid case. We want a lot of protection, a lot of foam to keep that safe, especially if you're doing precision rifles, because we know you've got an expensive scope and we know you spent a lot of money on that gun. So it's our business to make sure it's protected. So that's going to be a long bag, probably at least 48 inches, maybe 52 inches, depending. And when we do, we won't spare any cost on it. So it's not going to be just flat out not going to be cheap, but it will have the absolute best possible protection for that gun outside of a hard case.
So our suppressors, I know you own a lot of suppressors. Are they worth the hassle for the average guy?
Yes. Best thing you can do, though, is go ahead and buy it. Go ahead and buy it, pay your tax stamp, send off the paperwork, and forget about it. Next thing you know, it'll pop up. E-files sped it up a little bit.
Not like they advertise.
No, not like they advertise. But the big thing is the suppressor's for you and your neighbors, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. It doesn't take out the sound entirely. In fact, it's still barely hearing safe for most guns. And I still wear hearing protection, but I do it because I don't want to be a nuisance to everybody else around me. And that's what I think falls on deaf ears. They look cool. They're awesome, but they're more for everybody else than they really are for you because they make your gun dirtier. You have to sometimes adjust the gas because there's a lot more blowback. They're awesome, and I highly recommend them, especially if you're hunting. But they don't do, and I think it's pretty well known that they don't do what the movies say they do.
Yeah. So if you could suggest 3 suppressors for somebody that doesn't own any to get, what would they be? Not necessarily brand and manufacturer, but just type. Like, what tools in the toolbox should somebody get?
Get a 30 cal can because it goes from 308, 300 blackout down to 5.56, 223. Get it QD, whatever it is, whatever brand it is. I'm not really brand loyal. I'm pretty brand agnostic when it comes to cans. You name it, I probably either shot it or got it. So, yeah, and then get you something that'll shoot 22, but I'd also get something that'll hold some more power like the 5.7. Most of them will. They're 22 rated. They're 5.7 rated. But and then get you like a 9mm or 45 can and get you either a gun or a barrel that's threaded because that's just fun. There's nothing practical about a suppressed handgun, but it is fun.
So if you had to suggest for the first brand new AR-15 owner, should they get an LVPO or a red dot? And say their budget is along the first lines of a first rifle. They don't necessarily have money for like a Night Force or a higher end primary or something like that.
Well, first of all, Primary makes some really good stuff for the money, for sure.
So they've got a $500 budget, red dot or LVPO.
Well, that opens you up a pretty good bit. Really depends on what you're going to do. You're going to stay within 50 yards, get your red dot. You're going to try to go further than 50 yards, you want to stretch it out a little bit, get you an LPVO.
What do you think? Maybe a red dot magnifier, would that be an option, or would you go LVPO over that?
$500? You could probably swing it. I think SIG makes a pretty decent matchup. But you could. Magnifiers are cool. I don't, personally, not knocking them, but I just don't use them a lot. If I'm going to go magnification, probably just going to go LPVO. Just for weight and everything else and the hassle of, having the magnifier flip up and down. Just go LPVO and throw you a little red dot on it. Because now they make the mounts to where you can just throw a red dot on it, and you have best of both worlds, and you have more magnification. Because what's the highest magnification you've seen? 5x on a magnifier?
6.
6.
Yeah. I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
You did it.
Yeah. You did good, Michael. It's honestly easier talking than asking the questions.